Well, hello there, folks. Since this is live stream, I'll give it just a moment or two before I launch into today's subject, which is going to be on something called Bitcoin Maximalism, which I believe some of you are probably going to be like, well, what the hell's a Bitcoin Maximalist? You know, this is a term that I guess unless you are severely attached to one side or the other of this, I guess, crypto dichotomy, you may not even have ever heard of. But before we do that, if it would... it'd be good if I actually can see on the other screen the stream on Float, and the comment stream on Float, and on the screen I'm looking at right now, I can see the comments from YouTube. That's about as far as I can go. I am on Odyssey 2 today, but I cannot see it. So if on either destination, either Float or YouTube, if you're listening right now, if you could give me an audio check and let me know if I have good audio for you guys, that would be great in the comment section. And then right after that, we'll go ahead and we'll get started. And I'm going to hang out with you a little bit after I cut the podcast version of the recording off today and ask you guys for some advice and some suggestions on some things. So hang out for that as well when the topic du jour ends. And here we go into today's topic. Miyagi. Okay, we got good audio on YouTube. Nobody on Float, so we'll just roll with it. And let's cut on the recording for the Friday recap podcast, and we'll again, behind the scenes, you're seeing everything now instead of just the part that normally goes up into the public. Hey guys and gals, welcome to Miyagi Mornings, episode 130, and today we're going to talk about something called Bitcoin Maximalism. What is maximalism, you ask? Well, the term itself is pretty self-explanatory. A Bitcoin maximalist is generally a person that believes in the cryptocurrency space, there is Bitcoin and there is shitcoin, and there is no in between. That's actually not where I really think that they get it wrong. Your opinion that something is a valid project or a shitcoin is yours alone, and I don't really mind it at all that people feel that way. I refer to myself as something that I think most people just would say is not a thing. And those people would probably be right. I don't have a better term for it, though. And if somebody has a better term for it, other than the maximalists themselves, who would just say, well, you're a shitcoiner, I would refer to myself as a Maximalist Lite. And this leads to what I see in the maximalist community. I call it a purity test, where we've left the world of logic and reason, and we've gone into the world of ideology and religion. And what I mean by a maximalist light is if somebody says to me, but I think Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency. It won the war already. It will win the war long term. It will be the global reserve standard as far as cryptocurrencies go, if not more. It will liberate more people into economic liberty than anything else that man has ever created. It is the standard by which everything else should be measured. And a person probably, if they want to take the least amount of risk and they want to be in cryptocurrency, should buy Bitcoin and put themselves into a coma, metaphorically, and never even bother looking at anything else ever again. I agree. But when they say, and there's no purpose for any other cryptocurrency ever, period, I say, no. And then I'm a shitcoiner. And then I am not to be trusted for advice, and most of these people that come from this mindset don't actually know very much about cryptocurrency in general. They have read other people's tweets or whatever, and they have decided that they follow this prophet ideology. Like Satoshi is the prophet, and Bitcoin is the religion. And I think this is a problem in the space. And one of the people in the Bitcoin space who I have tremendous respect for, and I love his podcast, and I recommend listening to it, Peter McCormack. I think it's What Bitcoin Did is the podcast. I think he's beginning to come to terms with this purity. I heard an interview with him recently. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy behind Bitcoin Magazine that just ran the giant Bitcoin festival in Miami. And they were talking about it, and he was saying, I wonder if we're backing ourselves into something with this purity test. And what he brought up is one of the things I don't think anybody from the Bitcoin community has brought up how to solve this problem yet. And I think when you have actual problems that you can't solve, using other things to solve them is a good thing. And in many instances, a lot of things that people say that Bitcoin can't do, it can. And there are other technologies that work with Bitcoin to enable that. And that's the maximalist position, that whatever problem you can find, here's a technology that solves that problem, and you can still use Bitcoin. and therefore we don't need anything else. And by having one crypto to rule them all, so to say, we actually have the most leverage and the most power at doing the thing that I'm totally on board with, destroying or at least severely weakening the global banks. That's what this is for me more than anything else. More than even, your standard kind of anarcho-capitalist mindset, your agorist mindset. I want to eliminate the need, if not the existence, of the global banking system. And I believe Bitcoin is great for doing that. Here's a problem. Bitcoin is volatile. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a problem in of itself. It does mean there's an opportunity. And this was Peter McCormick's example of some place that maybe he needs to understand a little bit about, because most of these products are built on the Ethereum blockchain, a little bit about ERC20. But if he even says that, then the maximalist vultures will descend and pick from his bones, right? Because stablecoins. Bitcoin, you cannot make a Bitcoin product that is stable. So if Bitcoin's at like $65,000 US, and you're like, I'd like to take a little profit on this because I know a correction's coming. If you're going to be a Bitcoin only person, what are you going to do? It's actually very difficult in most exchange situations to sell your Bitcoin directly for dollars, especially if you just plan on going back into Bitcoin. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So a stable coin like, Tether makes a lot of sense. If for no other reason, so that I can realize a gain if I choose to. Now, how you'd make a Bitcoin stablecoin, I don't know. Now, I'm not talking about a central bank digital currency here. I'm talking about a privately issued dollar-backed, or depending what economy are you in? Here's another example for a stablecoin. I was listening to an interview today with Peter McCormick, with a parliament member from the small island nation of Tonga. They're looking at bringing in Jack Mallers' Strike. They use a currency, a local currency. I can't remember the name of it. Let's call it the Tongan dollar. That's not what it's called. It's like the panga or something like that. And it is pegged to 5 other currencies. It's like the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, the US dollar, the euro, and the Great British pound, if I remember right. You can fact check that shit and see if I remember right. Now, they're totally willing to bring in what he calls like the rails of Bitcoin, which would be an app like Stripe, and just basically say we're not going to get in anybody's way of using it. Don't need to pass any real laws or do any major things or restrict the banks. We can just let it into the country freely. And you can see right away where some citizens may need to hold money for a week or two, and then they need to buy basic goods and services, and they may want to take some portion of the Bitcoin they've received, probably mostly initially, just like El Salvador and remittances, and move it immediately to a position of stability. So a stable coin for them that basically is a synthetic version of their Tongan dollar, Pengo, whatever it is, would make a lot of sense. When Strike went into El Salvador, and of course all the maximalists love Jack Mallers now, he's great. But when Strike went into El Salvador, they had to use Tether to match the dollar currency of El Salvador as an option to make the thing work. So right there, we're out of this entire idea that there is no need for another currency. You notice I'm not bitching about energy usage because I think it's a false argument. It's nonsensical. It's been destroyed. You notice I'm not bitching about being able to spend and receive small amounts of Bitcoin because the fees are too high, because it's a nonsensical argument. It's already been destroyed. There's so many of these arguments that the maximalists have made perfectly executed, decisive, like argument killing, destroy the central point arguments against, that we don't need to worry about them anymore. If you want to buy a coffee and a scone or a pupusa down in El Salvador, you can use Strike. And then like the maximalist shitcoiner, I guess is what you'd call it, goes, but it costs too much money, but now you have a third party because it's Lightning. And they don't understand, because most of them don't know anything about this, that anybody can build their own payments network on Lightning. Anybody can run a Lightning node, right? It's not a centralized third party. Using a technology, an augmentative technology, is exactly when people start this shit about, but what Satoshi intended. When I hear that, I'm like, okay, first of all, the guy or group of people that is Satoshi were not fucking prophets, okay? They were not people to be obeyed as an authority, and every one of those people follows it up with some stupid sentence like, And you should read the white paper. Most of those people never read the white paper, even though they said they did. And the white paper of anything is not the end-all be-all of it. It's not a freaking copy of the Torah to be opened and read backwards and then revered and followed letter for letter. Here's this idea. Here's how I think we can do this. If you look at all the work, all the interactions, the writings specifically on forums and back and forth with the people that actually built Bitcoin with Satoshi, you find that this entire purity argument of, well, what Satoshi wanted is irrelevant. It's nonsensical. What they wanted to do was build something that had the means to be a true digital currency, to go from 0 to 1, which has taken mankind thousands of years to get from 0 to 1, and then let augmentative technology make it work. So a thing like Lightning, it would be exactly in keeping with the original intent of Bitcoin, but I don't give a shit if it is or not. I'm not worried about anybody's intent. I'm worried about what works with the technology we have, and technology freaking changes. The intent of Bitcoin, if you want to make that argument, is that you have this underlying digitally scarce commodity that can act as a currency through being a reserve, and then you can build anything you want off of it. That's actually the maximalist argument. It's very well articulated. Here's one problem. What about privacy? What about the fact that there are Bitcoins that have been tagged through certain exchanges that are considered tainted, and if you put them on certain exchanges, you can have your account shut down, and that Bitcoin, and it's happened to some people, all the currency you're holding on that exchange seized. And they're starting to do shit now like, well, you can mix coins. Yes, but if you mix coins, they become tainted. So I guess as long as you're playing lily white by the rules and you're sure of where all your Bitcoin came from, we're good to go. It's all AMA or whatever the hell they call it, super pure Bitcoin, and it's all public and known. Well, you're good. And I know the maximalists say, you can go into cold storage, you can do this. It's still on a public ledger, and if that address can in any way be associated with you, they can find out what you have and how much you have, right? And if you want to move it anywhere, if it's tainted, and God knows how long ago it could have been tainted in all of this deep work that's being done now with technology and deep data mining, they could say this was used to buy heroin on the Silk Road back in 2012 or 2013 or something like that. Oh, it's tainted, right? This is when people make the argument that Bitcoin is not fungible. This is what they're talking about. Now, I don't think the problem is as big as the privacy advocates make it from a standpoint of fungibility, but it's there. And you know what the solution the entire Bitcoin community has to it? Absolutely the square root of fuck all nothing. There is not a solution proposed that gets around this issue with Bitcoin. So how can I conduct private transactions where if I do it with Bitcoin, it in itself makes the Bitcoin that spits out the other end potentially seized by exchanges, government entities, etc. And I know what you're going to say, they can't seize it. They can't seize it if it's in your wallet that you control. But if you ever want to move it into some other form of currency, all of a sudden it has to go through some sort of an exchange, or you're gray market, black marketing that. And then sooner or later, that thing pops up somewhere that somebody's trying to use the fungibility to go into dollars or euros or whatever, and they can't. And then maybe it comes back to you. I don't know. This problem might not be as big as we make it out to be, but anybody that's in Bitcoin inherently should not be trusting government. That's why we do this shit. And you don't have a solution where Monero or R, Pirate Chain, have a solution to this, including things like back-end atomic swaps through privacy coins, where we're not mixing Bitcoins, we're just using different Bitcoins on different ends of the transaction. Until the maximalists can solve stability and security, this idea that every single person that does anything or says anything about or touches anything to do with any sort of, let's say, altcoin is a shitcoiner is stupid. And I'll also tell you why else it's stupid. Because this idea that someone who is an incredible friend to you, an incredible advocate to you, I have been pushing Bitcoin, as people on the stream would tell you, since 2014 heavily, and I've been at least kind of saying, hey, you should look at this since like 2013. And I've probably talked about it and dabbled in it a little bit in 2012. I've probably brought tens of thousands, if not more, people into the world of Bitcoin, but I'm a shitcoiner. because I hold some other currencies. Dominant currency I hold has always been Bitcoin, except when my stupidity of going into a shitcoin hit a home run, and then I made lots and lots of money on your so-called shitcoins. I mean, this is a nonsensical argument, and I would challenge anybody that is in this maximalist position. I would be happy to have an open discussion with you, and we could talk about these issues, because if you can solve them in a way that makes me comfortable with it, then I understand your position. If you can't solve two of the most basic issues here, which again, speed of transaction, got a solution for that. The energy usage argument is nonsensical. I agree with you. The thought that any of these currencies are actually going to supplant Bitcoin and become the next dominant cryptocurrency, I find nonsensical. I agree with you. But can you give me a privacy solution? Can you give me a privacy solution with Bitcoin only? That won't flag the coins themselves as being somehow tainted? No? Can you give me a stability solution with Bitcoin only so that the person that has, I've talked about this before, but people say people don't spend Bitcoin because it's too expensive to spend or because it's too valuable and increases too much. Nobody wants to let go of it. The reason people don't spend Bitcoin is they don't earn it. If I hired you tomorrow and I paid your entire salary in Bitcoin, you'd start spending Bitcoin this week. And all of a sudden, your aversion to something like the Lightning Network would go away because you'd be like, oh, here's a payment solution. It works just like my online bill pay. And I can pay all these freaking people that want my money in dollars. I can use Bitcoin and they get dollars, right? And you would have that short-term money that you're going to earn this month and pay bills with this month. You don't want that money to sit in Bitcoin during a down market like we just went through, do you? So you need an ability to stabilize that payment money. Your midterm money might be a mix, and your long-term money, I think you're a fool if you don't just stay in Bitcoin unless you're investing in some other security, business, commodity, et cetera, right? So that's how everybody that has enough money to have three buckets allocates their money right now. If you're not living paycheck to paycheck, you probably have a savings account, and then you have investments, and you don't consider your savings account an investment. Well, what needs to be in that savings account? Probably a mix, but you also have a liquid amount. Now, I don't mean technically liquid. I mean, it's liquid in your mind. You know, my electric bill is going to be $300 this month. You know, my mortgage payment is going to be $1,800 this month. And so if you just made your mortgage payment and you just had a significant paycheck or revenue check come in, and you're not going to pay your mortgage for another 30 days, do you want to sit in Bitcoin for those 30 days if you're in a bear market? No. So again, what's your solution, maximalists? If anybody that touches anything that's crypto is impure, how do you solve that problem? Those are my thoughts. And I think this is a very detrimental thing to the space. And I also think that there can be peaceful coexistence here if people would pull their heads out of their, what we call in the Army, your fourth point of contact. You know, all these people that are Bitcoin maximalist, I guarantee you like 98% of them pay their bills with whatever fiat currency is the currency of their country. If they're a European, they're paying it in euros. If they're an American, they're paying it in dollars. If they're Canadian, they're paying it in Canadian dollars. You're not pure. You're using the ultimate shitcoin. There is no shitcoin that is a bigger shitcoin than central bank currencies that are designed to lose value over time. So the maximalist that won't use these other solutions, that forces themselves into using, let's say, US dollars, by your own argument, you're the ultimate shitcoiner. I don't actually believe that. That's your argument, not mine. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this one. We will catch up to you tomorrow. And as usual with Miyagi Mornings, whatever we do next will not be a cryptocurrency topic. We always try to do one of those a week or at least break them up. And guys and gals on the feed, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any direct feedback for me now, I will be watching both Float and I will be watching YouTube because that's what I can do. I have not figured out with only two monitors and the way StreamYard works how to monitor three at once here. But I have a question for you guys. I am aware of the fact that I'm a little blurry here on the screen. And so I'm not going to stay on here much longer. But if anybody has a suggestion for a really decent webcam that will mount, has a shoe mount or whatever, so it will mount on a tripod like this, that will work with a Mac, which is pretty much all of them. It's not going to be a little bitchy device that tries to take over the audio, and I won't have any problems using my good microphone. Rather than me doing a ton of research, just email me, jack@thesurvivalpodcast.com, TSPC in the subject line, and just give me a link to wherever the little, if you use one and you like it, let me know about it. And I also want to know, is there anybody out there that wants to throw out an idea for today's podcast for a standalone subject? Is there something I haven't covered in a while? And I'll give it a couple minutes here. And if there's anything you guys want me to talk about today, maybe I'll do it. And if I do so, I will probably stream the body of the podcast as well. So again, we're going long here with the stream, but yeah, I do need another screen, Tom. You're right. I envision setting up, I have a huge desk. I have a giant desk from my office in Arkansas, and I could probably fit 5 screens up here. And I'd put some screens behind me with like a bunch of shit strolling on it that doesn't mean anything. That looks like news and crypto prices and stock prices, and just leave it back there. I could green screen that shit. And y'all would think I'm all badass and there's nothing there. Thoughts on the MRA gas masks? That's not really a show. Well, if nobody has anything right now, I'll jet out. But of course, simple question on plan of action if the internet is shut down. Okay, here we go. They're not shutting the internet down. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. They're not shutting the internet down. Shutting the internet down would hurt, of all people the most, the billionaires that make billions and billions of dollars off the internet. They're not going to do anything that hurts the billionaires. They're not going to strike us with an EMP to shut us all down and starve us to death. They're not going to just stop it. Stop it. If the internet fails, it will fail regionally, locally, because of a problem. They're not, if you mean they as in the Davos group or the New World Order, they're not going to do it. Stop it. All right. All the EMF with computer screens. No, I'm not worried about the EMF with computer screens. Nope, not even a little bit. Okay, so no suggestions for the show today. I'll come up with something, and maybe I will live stream that. Hope you guys enjoyed today. And if anybody, no, I know you're not talking about EMPs. I know you said EMF from computer screens. I'm not worried about that either. Anyway, and I'm not worried about them shutting down the internet, so I'm not sure what that comment was. Anyway, guys, I will catch up with you guys later.